Back around 1903, Wallace D. Wattles shared a wonderful truth with the world. He said, "A person's right to life means his right to have the free and unrestricted use of all the things which may be necessary to his fullest mental, spiritual, and physical unfolding. In other words, his right to be rich."
Hello, this is Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, the founder and the spiritual director of the Agape International Spiritual Center. And I'm so honored and grateful that my dear friend Bob Procter has asked me to introduce this program, The Secret Science of Getting Rich. Before we begin the program, I'd like to give you a little history of this and how it came to be. A great secret has been passed throughout the centuries. It was coveted, lost, stolen, hidden, and bought for vast sums of money as it continued its journey from being passed from one to another. Those who received the knowledge of the secret were fortunate indeed, for without exception, those men and women have become renowned as the greatest people to have ever lived. One night in Chicago in 1896, the secret was passed to one such man, and with its knowledge, he discovered not only why he had spent his entire life in poverty and failure, but he discovered how to realize the life he had always been seeking, a life of total abundance. That night, his life changed forever. Though it would be many years before he would begin to write the Little Green Book, his now immortal masterpiece based on the principles of the Great Secret. The man was Wallace D. Wattles. Was that the effect of that night would reach far, far into the future. He was setting forth a great matrix of events, places, people, circumstances that would change the course of history. 73 years after Wattles first discovered the great secret, and more than 50 years after his death, the secret was again passed from one great man to another. On a night in 1969, Lloyd Conant of the Nightingale Conant Corporation had Bob Procter as a guest in his home. At the time, Bob Procter had been a serious student of human potential for close to a decade, and he had been studying Earl Nightingale's material since shortly after he began recording his philosophy. But nothing could have prepared Bob Procter for the new dimension he was about to step into that night, due to Lloyd Conant and his Little Green Book. Lloyd began to speak very softly. It was obvious to Bob that as he spoke, it was traveling into the past in his mind. He explained how many years before he had been given a Little Green Book. Even as he said the words, Bob could feel Lloyd's energy change as he held the image of that Little Green Book in his mind. He told Bob that he stayed home all weekend, reading and rereading its contents. He said he knew that he had discovered the secret to life. And so on the following Monday morning, Lloyd Conant decided he would build a world-class corporation. Today, the Nightingale Conant Corporation, now nearly 50 years old, is the largest producer and publisher of personal development products. It stands as a monument to Lloyd Conant's dream, to his vision, to his understanding of the secret to life, and to the Little Green Book. Throughout Lloyd's conversation, Bob was bursting with curiosity to know the title of the Little Green Book, and even more so, what was written in this magical text. And that night, seminars have assisted companies to increase their business by hundreds of millions of dollars each year. The ideas and exercises in these recorded and live seminars have directed many thousands of individuals to lead richer, brighter lives. Understanding the Little Green Book And The Secret to Life has enabled Bob to mentor educators, psychiatrists, medical doctors, senior executives from multinational corporations, and students and salespeople. He has also reached millions with his #1 bestseller, You Were Born Rich. Without exception, every one of these individuals can see and enjoy a brighter future because of their new awareness. Realizing the impact The Secret can have on a person's life caused Bob to be totally committed to teaching these concepts for the rest of his stay on the planet. 35 years after Bob Procter was given the Little Green Book that changed his life, and more than 100 years after Wattles first discovered The Secret on the other side of the world in Australia, The Secret again passed into new hands. On a night in September 2004, Rhonda Byrne was handed a tattered, faded copy of an old book. The book was given to Rhonda by her daughter, and in many ways, this book was Rhonda's last. Like Lloyd Conant had done, she read and reread its contents with amazement and excitement until every word had been internalized into her very being. And like magic, her whole life began to turn around. With the knowledge of the truth of life within her, Rhonda immediately embarked on a new journey and a new mission. For with Wattles' words, Rhonda had come to know absolutely what she had been born to do. She was going to take The Secret to the world. 9 months later, in early July 2005, Rhonda Byrne was sitting on an airplane bound for the United States of America. In a few days, her entire production crew would also arrive from Australia, ready to interview the teachers for a film known simply as The Secret. As Rhonda sat on the airplane, she gave no thought to the fact that she had not organized one single teacher to film. She simply trusted that by using the knowledge of The Secret, the perfect teachers would appear to help her realize her vision of bringing joy to millions. On a flight from Australia to the United States, Rhonda Byrne carried one book on board the airplane with her. She read that book from cover to cover. The book was called You Were Born Rich, and it was written by a man called Bob Procter. In that same month of July 2005, Bob Procter went on a 2-day trip to Aspen, a city he had not visited for some years. Not long after he arrived, Bob was contacted by an Australian production company called Prime Time Productions. They simply asked if he would do an interview for a film they were in the process of shooting. The film was called The Secret. Despite knowing little else about it, Bob immediately felt that this was something he was supposed to do. The only problem was his schedule was already filled up for some time. And even though one of his commitments had just canceled, he was in Aspen. But in an almost unbelievable twist of fate, and the final step in a matrix of events that spanned more than a century, Rhonda and the Secret team were already in Aspen. And so the very next day, Rhonda Byrne and Bob Procter met for the first time, and the rest is the sincere hope of all who have been a part of the wonderful matrix that has been brought us and you to this moment, from Wallace Wattles to Lloyd Conant to Bob Procter to Rhonda Byrne and myself, Michael Beckwith, that you will find in this little green book every precious and glorious thing that it does contain. As you listen to this program, make up your mind that you will revisit each session frequently until you are living a life beyond your wildest dreams. Refuse to let your present results influence your thinking. Keep reminding yourself that you have a power within you that is greater than any condition and circumstance you may encounter. And never forget how powerful and how truly magnificent you are. Now here's my friend, Bob Procter.
There's been a number of people that have had a profound impact on my life, but there's two in particular, Rhonda Byrne and Lloyd Conant. With The Secret, Rhonda totally shifted my thinking, my business world, my life. Lloyd Conant introduced me to this work of Wallace Wattles way back around 1968. I've never stopped studying it. With The Secret and the Science of Getting Rich, I honestly believe this is going to change the consciousness of the entire world. The world is waking up. They're waking up in great numbers. The Secret is impacting their life. And The Secret Science of Getting Rich is going to show everyone how to develop what all of the people on The Secret are talking about, how to develop that law of attraction, how to move into harmony with the law. Let me begin by the comments that Stuart Edward White and Harwood White shared with us. They said, "Curious how we acquire wisdom. Over and over again, the same truth is thrust under our very noses. We encounter it in action, we are admonished of it, we read it in the written word. We suffer the experience. We gradually assent to the advice. We approve intellectually the written word, but nothing happens inside us. Then one day, some trivial experience or word or encounter stops us short. A gleam of illumination penetrates the depths of our consciousness. We see. Usually it is but a glimpse. But on a rare occasion, a brilliant flash reveals truth fully formed, and we marvel that this understanding has escaped us for so long." As I was sharing the words, "Then one day some trivial experience or word or encounter stops us short," I'm quite certain that that's exactly what happens to millions of people as they sit down and turn on the movie The Secret. It's expanding everyone's mind. It's opening up the mind of the world to the way God meant us to live. A gentleman by the name of Steve Bow one time said, "God's gift to us is more talent and ability than we'll ever hope to use in our lifetime. And our gift to God is to develop as much of that talent and ability as we can in this lifetime." I believe that's what The Secret is waking people up to. And that is what the Science of Getting Rich is designed to help you actually do. Many years ago, I had the very good fortune of working on the stage with Eric Hoffer. He said something that was rich with truth, and it stuck in my mind. He said, "In times of change, the learners will inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists." Well, think about that. He said, in times of change, the learners will inherit the earth. I took that to be metaphorical, that they'll be happy, healthy, and wealthy. Well, the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. Our world is changing. The world's not getting bigger, it's getting smaller. We're dealing in a global marketplace today. It's not uncommon for people to talk a number of times a day from opposite sides of the globe. The world is changing. And the learners will become the happy, healthy, wealthy ones. There's no such thing as a learned individual. There's no such thing as an educated individual. Education comes from the Latin educo, meaning to educe, to develop, or to draw out from within. So learning is not hammering information into our head. It's becoming aware of what's already inside of us. Now, Hoffer also said, to learn, you need a certain degree of confidence, not too much and not too little. If you have too little confidence, you'll think you can't learn. If you have too much, you'll think you don't have to learn. You know, it's conceivable as you sit and watch The Secret that you might think that there's some emotional or capricious God has blessed the people in that movie with something that you haven't got. But that's not the way it is. The whole idea of the movie is to make you aware that what each one of us on that movie are talking about, you have. And it's just simply a matter of becoming aware of it. It's like the Whites said, then one day some trivial experience. And it's going to be something small, and it may just be a flash, but I can assure you, if you will study this program like I have studied it, like many other people have studied it, you're going to find that your world is going to start to change. It's almost like looking through a pair of binoculars and you're bringing things into focus. And every time you think it's crystal clear and you just shift it a bit, it becomes clearer. You have infinite potential. There's no end to what you're capable of doing. And the beautiful truth is, this program is going to help you bring that potential to the surface and begin living the rich life. All the way through The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace D. Wattles reminds us that you don't get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. That certain way is what Rhonda really grasped in the film The Secret. See, Rhonda Byrne was illuminated. She studied this book, and a gleam of illumination penetrated the depths of her consciousness, and she was inspired to share this with the world, which she's doing. And it's growing so rapidly, but you've got it in your hands, and now you've got the material in your hands to learn how to move into harmony with those laws. If you go and stand in front of the mirror, you will see a reflection of your body, but you will not see a reflection of yourself. That's your body. That's the house you live in. Your body is a molecular structure. It's a mass of molecules at a very high speed of vibration. If you're going to change the results in your life, you're going to have to go inside. You're going to have to begin tapping into your mind. And you know, way back around 1934, there was a doctor, Thurman Fleet, who became aware that we're approaching people the wrong way. He was involved in the healing arts, and he had a tremendous desire to help people understand what holistic health was all about. That's dealing with the whole person, the spiritual being, the intellectual being, and the physical being. And he said, what we're really doing is treating symptoms when we're dealing with the physical. And he said, we have to work with the higher side. We have to begin working with the mind. Now, he said, we've got a basic problem here. No one has ever seen the mind. In fact, if I asked you to think of the mind, you probably, if anything, get an image of your brain on the screen of your mind, because we think in pictures. Think of your house. A picture of your house will come on the screen of your mind. Think of your automobile, and again, an image will come onto the screen of your mind of your automobile. Your front door, your kitchen table. Do you see how pictures flash on the mind? Now think of your mind. What picture do you get? If you're like most people, no picture comes to the mind. Confusion reigns. And that's what Thurman Fleet became aware of. Now, he said, since no one has ever seen the mind, I'm going to make a picture of the mind. And he drew this picture of a large circle and a small circle. We refer to that as the stick person. And that represents the mind. Now, I want you to imagine that your head is your mind and everything from the neck down is being the body. Now, of course, that's not the way it is. Mind is movement. Mind is not a thing. So mind is in your fingernail, it's in your hair, it's in every molecule of your being. But we do have to have an image to operate with. So we're going to let the head represent the mind. And everything from the neck down represent the body. Now we're going to put an imaginary horizontal line from ear to ear. Everything above that line we're going to refer to as the conscious mind. Everything below that horizontal line is going to be referred to as the subconscious mind. Now, as we go through this program, I'm going to refer to the conscious mind many different ways. I may call it the intellectual mind. I may refer to it as the reasoning factor, the imagining system. And the subconscious mind I could refer to as the emotional mind, where the feeling center resides. This is the innate mind, where universal intelligence. There's many, many different terminologies that you can use to describe these various parts of the mind. To start off with, we're going to call it the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, the conscious mind has hooked up to it like little antennae, hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. These are sensory factors. They're hooked up to our conscious mind, and they help us correspond and communicate with our outside world. I want you to imagine that a person's walking down the street, and they've got these 5 little antennae sticking out of their head. Now, we would certainly look a little strange if we had that, but of course, if we've always had it, it wouldn't look strange at all. Well, that's really the way it is. We have these little antennae, and they pick up all kinds of information from outside. Now, I think, as Moses said, they're both a blessing and a curse, because they not only pick up all kinds of distractions, but they also feed good information in. We see what something looks like. We can taste things. We feel it. You see what I'm talking about? Your sensory factors help you correspond and communicate with your outside world. Now, in your conscious mind, as we're going to find, you also have intellectual factors. You've got the ability to think, and you can think anything you want to think, and you think in pictures. Now, if I'm sharing an idea with you, which I'm doing right now, I am attempting to form images in your conscious mind. Now, as these images come to your conscious mind, because you can think, because you do have a reasoning factor, you can accept or reject anything you hear. There's a great book written by Dr. Viktor Frankl. He was a Jewish psychiatrist that spent the war years in a camp, and he was subjected to a respectable amount of physical and intellectual abuse. But it was while he was in the camp that he became aware that no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. He wrote a book on it called Man's Search for Meaning. You and I have the ability to choose our thoughts. If you see a headline in the paper that said the economy's going down the tubes, and that comes into your consciousness, you can reject that. You don't need to get emotionally involved with that idea. If someone says something to you that's unpleasant and you don't want to get emotionally involved, just reject it. We choose the images that we accept and the ones we reject. Now, unfortunately, as little children, we were actually conditioned to live from the outside in. As we go through this program, I am going to encourage you to switch that around and begin living from the inside out. Do you know that's what the Bible teaches you? The Quran, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, all the good books tell us to go inside, live from the inside out, but we've been programmed from our childhood to live from the outside in. We get a report card, and we look at the report card. And if the numbers on it aren't too good, in school, we think we're not very good as a student, that we're missing something. The truth is, the report card just tells us where our mind was at for a very short period of time, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. It has absolutely nothing to do with our potential. We have infinite potential, and we want to start to think that way. As we go along, we're going to start to go inside. The conscious mind has the ability to accept or reject. So, as you go through the program, you're going to see the graphic illustration that we refer to as the stick person, and it's all the way through our program. So, as you're driving along or you're walking along, if you look at another person, begin to look at their head as their mind and everything from the neck down as being the body. You know, I have formed the habit of doing this. If I were to sit down and talk to you, immediately I would have an imaginary line from ear to ear. And everything above that line would be your conscious mind. And I'd be attempting to get your conscious attention. And because I know how your conscious mind works, I could probably be successful without too much trouble. Now, let's go below that imaginary line. That's called the subconscious mind. Do you know the subconscious mind has no ability to reject? It'll accept anything you give to it. It's like a magic area, and it's inside of us. It'll accept anything. Doesn't matter what it is. It's not able to differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. Your subconscious mind, if you wanted to get technical about it, you could say it's totally deductive. It has absolutely no ability to reject. It can only accept. So whatever gets into that part of your mind affects your entire body. Just see, your body is an instrument of your mind. The body is an instrument of the mind. When you see a body moving in a certain direction, what you're really watching is the body expressing what's going on in the mind. If you watch a person, they start this and stop it. They start that and stop it. They go here and then they turn around, they go there, and they're all over the place. It's obvious their mind is in a state of confusion, and that confusion is being expressed in their action. Get into a person's automobile. It frequently looks like some of the people that you know are moonlighting in the garbage business. I mean, the automobiles is totally upside down. You know, that gives you an indication of what's going on in their mind. Another person, you'll get in their automobile and everything is just perfect. What have you got there? You've got an orderly mind. You go into their home, there's order. Our mind is what determines what's going on in our outside world. Now, the subconscious mind will accept anything, and the images that you accept on a conscious level and impress upon the subconscious mind, they control the vibration that your body's in. Now, this may be new terminology to you. You may have never thought of your body being in a vibration. Hold your hand up in front of you. Actually, look at your hand. I'm looking at mine right now, and you've got to admit it looks solid, but you want to know something? At the very best, it's a sieve. It is a mass of molecules and a very high speed of vibration. And you know that you've got the ability to alter the vibration it's in? Now, the vibration it's in is going to determine how you feel. When you ask a person how they feel, what you're really saying is, what vibration are you in? And they will tell you, if they're consciously aware of being in a negative vibration, they'll probably tell you they don't feel that good. If they're consciously aware of being in a very good vibration, they'll probably say, I feel pretty good. We can control our own feelings. We control our feelings by virtue of the images that we build in our consciousness and turn over to our subconscious. So now, let's get the picture. I want you to visualize your head as your mind. You've got that imaginary line running from ear to ear. And above it, I want you to start to build a beautiful picture. I want you to see yourself very wealthy. You are clothed in the finest garments that are available to man. They are absolutely beautiful garments. You see that in your mind. You are driving a very luxurious car. You're living in a beautiful home. You're able to take magnificent vacations. You see an opulent lifestyle. You build a picture of that. Now you can take and let that picture sink right into your subconscious mind. And do you know that if you would continually do that, that's the way you're going to end up living, because it's the images that you impress upon your subconscious mind that controls the vibration you're in. And you know, as you listen to The Secret, all the way through The Secret, they talked about thinking in a certain way and attracting it into their life. If you held that image and you kept getting emotionally involved in the image, because that's what getting emotionally involved means. It means turning the image over to the subconscious mind. You move into that vibration, and instantly and automatically attractive force moves into motion. And you begin to attract to you all things requisite to the fulfillment of that picture. I know this works because I do it. When I first started to study this material, I was earning $4,000 a year, and I owed $6,000. I had no formal education. I had no business experience, and I was working at the best job I had ever had in my life. I was a firefighter with the East York Fire Department. That's a suburb of Toronto. And I probably thought I was going to stay there for the rest of my life until I was introduced to this material. And my life began to change. And you know, in a relatively short period of time, my income went from $4,000 a year to $175,000 a year. And then it went over $1 million a year. I was on a call last night with a man named Alex Mendozian. He's a marketing genius, this man. And he was telling the audience in the conference call that we were on how he was earning $68,000 a year. And he left his job in the eastern part of the United States and moved to the San Francisco area where his family lived. He and his wife had a couple of little children, and they wanted the children to be around the grandparents. And he had listened to a recording that I made that said you can actually turn your annual income to a monthly income. And he said he began to think, how can I turn my annual income to a monthly? He didn't think he couldn't. He began to think of how he could. And he said, I actually did it. I earned $68,000 in a month. And he said I did it 2 or 3 times. And then it was just a matter of doing it 12 times a year. And he shared with the audience that he's actually done that in an hour, and he's done it 16 different times. See, there's no end to what you and I can do. I want to recommend that you begin thinking of turning your annual income into a monthly income. I was working with a business associate of mine, Wolfgang Sonnenberg. We were in Hamburg, Germany. His company offered a $1 million bonus for anyone that could reach a certain sales level. He immediately went there and did it. And in a meeting, I asked him, Wolfgang, when did you decide that you were going to earn that $1 million bonus? He said, the minute they announced it. He said, I figured if they're going to give it away, I would take it. Now, there were tens of thousands of other people operating in that same organization. But nobody else made that decision. Why did he make that decision? Because he wanted it. And he had an idea. He had an awareness that if he wanted it and saw himself with it and got emotionally involved in it, that he would attract everything that was required for the manifestation of the picture. What do you want? What do you really want? Now, we've invested a bit of time discussing the mind. Let's take a look at the third aspect of our personality. You've got the conscious mind, the subconscious, and you have the body. The body is the instrument of the mind. It obeys the operations of the mind. It will do whatever the mind tells it to do. The body is a delicate plastic instrument. It is a mass of molecules in a high speed of vibration. If we keep the body vibrating in harmony with God's laws, it will stay healthy. And if we don't, it will break down. Now, we've got the ability to control that. We can keep our body alive and vibrant. This whole universe operates by law. We're going to discuss the laws in depth. But Dr. Werner von Braun said that the natural laws of our universe are so precise that we don't have any difficulty building spaceships, sending people to the moon, and we can actually time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. He also said these laws must have been set by someone, but we'll leave that for another lesson. Now think, the images that you impress by law are being expressed with and through your body. Now I want you to notice that there's a 4-step process here, and we want to get all 3 parts of our personality working in harmony by following these 4 steps. Number 1 is thoughts. Begin to pay attention to what you're thinking. Number 2, you internalize those thoughts and you create a feeling. Make sure you're feeling good about everything you do. Number 3, those feelings are expressed in actions. Pay attention to your actions. Do everything you're doing as well as you can possibly do it. And number 4 is results. Pay attention to your results. And understand this, you are in control of your results. Do you see, when I first began to study this, as I've already mentioned, I was unhappy, I was sick, and I was broke. I thought somebody else was the cause of my results. I was a victim. Victims lose. Victims never learn that they are in control of their results. I want you to make up your mind that from this moment on, you're going to be consciously aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing, and realize that if the results are not the results you want, you've got the ability to change them. Don't feel bad because the results are not what you want. Feel good that you're aware that you can change them. And then step into action and build an image of the good that you desire. Get emotionally involved in it, step into action on it, and watch the results change. You will attract to you everything required through the great secret of life, the law of attraction. As we go through this program, your mind is going to keep expanding. The light is going to keep getting brighter and brighter. And you're going to wake up and you're going to say, now I see. The same thing will happen to you that happened to me. The same thing's going to happen to you that happened to Rhonda Byrne. And then you want to ask yourself, will I do what these people have done? Will I share this with the world? Because if you decide to do that, you're going to have a magnificent life. Absolutely magnificent. And I trust that you will. This is such a wonderful program. It's the secret science of getting rich. And you've got it. You own it. Understand it. Digest it. Internalize it. Live it. And share it.